Welcome, welcome to She's All Over the Place. I am so excited to have you here, and I am so excited to share my guest with you. He is from Mexico. His name is Peter O. Estévez. He was born in Mexico City, and he migrated to the United States at the age of 10. Peter is an entrepreneur for over 25 years and is a partner in several companies in the energy, gas, and oil sector in Mexico. Peter is a philanthropist and an advocate for recovery and brain health, as well as the writer and author of his upcoming book, Coming Clean, 13 Steps to a Healthy Life. And he is the host of the top rated podcast. It's called Coming Clean Podcast. And I've listened to some of his podcasts ever since we were introduced, like maybe about 6 months ago. And his podcast actually is a lot like my podcast. He offers a lot of value, ethics, and morals. He gives entrepreneurs an opportunity to share their stories. He has a lot of women on, so he's about women empowerment, culture, and spirituality, love, freedom, psychedelics. So definitely check out Coming Clean his Coming Clean podcast after you're done listening to this episode, and subscribe and follow his journey and follow him on social media. All the his social media links will be in the notes below. And if you're listening to this, if you want a visual, you can pop over to YouTube and type in Katie Chonacas, or She's All Over the Place, and you can see our interview together today. So thank you, Peter, for joining me. How are you?
I am terrific, Katie. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yay. So, wow. I mean, ever since I was a little girl, I was always a seeker, and I wanted to just accomplish so much and just, see the world, literally travel the world and get involved in everything with culture and arts. And, you're cultured as well. And you came over to America, and I heard in, one of your prior podcasts, you were saying how we're all, all people who migrate to America, we're all kind of entrepreneurs. So, tell us about your journey, how that started for you, maybe some of the mindsets that you naturally had as a youngster that were given to you, by the gift of the universe.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you for the introduction. I migrated to the United States at the age of 10 years old. I migrated with my mom and dad and 12 of my siblings. So we're a family of 15. We migrated to South Texas, and my parents were blue collar people, uneducated. We're poor. We're a poor family. I often say that we were so poor we couldn't afford a drink. But the reality is that there was a lot of resourcefulness out of poverty. There's, when you cited that comment about me saying that many immigrants are entrepreneur by default, it's a reality. We learned very early on the hustle, how to create a buck, how to make a living, because it's more than anything, it's a state of survival, right? It's a means to making a living. I saw my father as an uneducated blue collar man have multiple jobs and do many odd jobs just to be able to support his children, his 13 children and his wife. So I very early on saw that my father worked very hard and that he never gave up, he never surrendered. If one thing didn't work, he tried something else. So yes, I feel that in my bloodline, by default, I was an entrepreneur at a very young age, even when I didn't even know how to spell the word or what the word meant. Okay. So as I went to life, I learned that some of the things to be successful, you need grit, you need hard work, you need commitment, you need dedication, you need to be persistent, and you can certainly not surrender. So those are the things that my father, even with this poor lack of education and not even knowing, he was instilling in me and my siblings as we were growing up. Now coming to America in the pursuit of the American dream, my parents had no idea what they were doing. They were just trying to provide a better life for their children, and they just assumed that by bringing them over the border, providing a better quality of life, that things were going to be better. But the reality is that when you are being raised by two uneducated parents, there's a likelihood that you are going to be somewhat uneducated unless you are very, very, very driven. Okay, so out of 13 children, I am one of the ones that was very persistent. I'm a middle child. And at a very young age, I learned that if I didn't want to hand me down to my older siblings, I had to work so I could buy my own jeans, my own t-shirts, my own Snickers, whatever it was that I wanted. And I also had to work to be able to contribute to the household to help my parents raise the family. That was just the reality. So yes, as I think many immigrants fled their country not because they're doing well. They're flee their country because they want to do better, right?
Yeah.
So that was the case of my parents.
And I just want to like commend you and honor you, because I'm like, my soul's crying through listening this right now with joy, because I also want to admire and acknowledge your courage and your bravery, because like what you mentioned, and you're so authentic about it, like, oh, and humble, like we came from humble beginnings, we're poor. So how I identify with that is, like, I have the roots of my grandparents coming from the old country, from Greece. And so I have those instilled roots as well. And then, but I was born in America. And so I had the TV and the culture of what was on TV and the American quote unquote dream. So I wasn't real and raw like you were, like I am now. I wasn't real and raw with that. I was ashamed of that. I carried so much shame and so much guilt about not coming from like a Paris Hilton family. Like people would meet me and they're like, oh my God, like daddy's girl or something. But I have the same roots as you, and the work ethic, and we were taught those values, and I still have those till today. But I had to go through a lot of things as a young entrepreneur being in Michigan, because and I grew up in Detroit, 30 minutes outside, so I had that raw Detroit energy, which a lot of people say it's like the same as like Oakland energy, but like I had that energy. But I also was like this public persona of covering up like who I was, because I was scared to be vulnerable, to show that, although I had that hustler's quote unquote mentality. I think it's so beautiful. And, for the viewer and the listener to tune in to hear that, because, even though I just showed how I identify with you, it shows the differences in our past where, did you experience any of that shame that I'm talking about, or any of the guilt that I'm talking about, or was there not even a cushion to think about those things because of your circumstances?
No, absolutely. I felt a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, but that was later on in life as I became a teenager and I became aware of my circumstances. Right? You become aware. Once I think there's a pivotal point at a certain age, primarily middle school, freshman year in high school. You begin to see the differences, how people dress, how people talk, how people walk, how people are smarter than you, how people are dumber than you. You begin to notice the differences are very obvious, okay? And then the shame and guilt as to where I came from began to pour over me, okay? So I went from Pedro to Peter. I started disguising certain things about my identity because I was ashamed of where I came from. My father drove an older car, and I didn't want him to drive me to school, or if he did, I wanted him to drop me off a couple of blocks before he got to school, because he drove a beat up car. So there was a lot of shame and guilt of where I came from. Okay, but that is a process that a lot of us have to go through. I'm not ashamed to retell my story, because that's not who I am. That is just where I came from. I had to go through a process of growth, a process of transformation, in order for me to be able to share my story. Today I share my story not because my story is unique or your story is unique. I share my story because my story is the story of many. And the moment that I have an opportunity to share my story, I also have an opportunity to give others an opportunity to identify themselves with my story, and I opened up the doors for them to be able to share their story as well. But that's my job and my duty and my responsibility. Otherwise, I have not transformed. Otherwise, I'm still living where I came from, right? So
Right.
my responsibility today is, I have been on a quest to grow, to evolve, to change. Today, I find that I am full and complete. I'm not any of that. I'm not a Mexican across the border. I'm just a human being here in this world to serve the best that I can.
Love you. Love you. Yes, yes. That's exactly, you're speaking directly to my soul, heart to heart. And it's who I am. I love what you're saying. And I hope others identify with, what you're saying, and follow along in that path, because it's why we're here. It's truly the essence of why we're here, to be the ripple effect, a mirror reflection for one another, to learn and grow from one another. And I love how you can just put yourself out there. And so I see that you, are you an art collector? How are you in the art world? Because I also want to say, the opening of your podcast and the end of your podcast, you have this really dope artist, and on all your social media, you're always like in the hip hop culture community. And I know like you have a swag about you, and it's like super cool. Who is the artist that does the opening and closing for your intro and outro of your podcast?
I actually had a gentleman, Johnny Austin out of Canada, that actually did that song was designed for my podcast, the intro and the outro. And I learned something a very long time ago. I had become my father growing up, right? Because that's what we did. That's what we model, right? And at some point, I felt a disconnect between. I have a 21-year-old son today, and I became a single father when my son was 7 years old, and I raised him as a single father. And I really, really remember a pivotal point in my life when I realized that my father and I did not have anything in common. That when my father went from being my hero to being my zero, when I realized, and I don't say that, but I love my father. I love who he is, and I am extremely grateful for everything they taught me. But this is where I was at that point in my life. I realized that he was not as smart as I thought he was. I realized that he knew the things that I needed to learn in order to move along in life. And I remember that pivotal moment. So when my son was 7 years old, I realized that I didn't want my son to feel about me the way I felt about my father, okay? That I had a responsibility to break that cycle of dysfunction, that I had a responsibility to make sure that I didn't pass on ignorance, lack of knowledge, lack of information, access to information, opportunities, whatever it was. Not that my parents did not want to give them to me, they just didn't know how. They didn't have the tools, the knowledge, the know-how. They could only give me what they had. But they also gave me an opportunity to pick up from the left and to gain my own experiences. And I wanted to teach that to my son. So when my son was 7 years old and I was a single father, I wanted to make sure that I was relatable, that I didn't carry on the old tradition from my country, from my grandparents, because if we're not a student of history and we don't see what has happened in our own personal history, we are bound to repeat the same mistakes. Well, I noticed that if my parents were broke and poor, I was more than likely to repeat the history if I didn't do something different. And what that different meant was that I had to change everything about me in order to break that cycle. So I was committed to be connected with what was going on in the world, to learn, to be educated, to learn emotional intelligence, to dive into personal development, to understand the culture, to understand my son's culture. It was not my responsibility. It was not my son's responsibility to understand me or my culture or my generation, because my culture, my generation were becoming obsolete. Okay, his generation was the leading generation, the growing generation, the generation of the future. So why is he responsible to be to be adopted to me? No, I'm responsible to adapt to his generation, to his culture, to his needs, to his music, to his technology, to what's going on in social media. So I dove in very deeply to make sure that I became relatable, that I became that I was a father that had communication, that he and I could talk about something and have something in common. So I made him part of my decision making, and we became a unit. We became a household unit. It was no longer a dictatorship. It was not only from the top down. It was a family unit. We were the Peter and Allen Corporation. That every decision that happened in that household was going to affect the both of us. So therefore, we both had to make the decisions together.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And that made it. A lot of people say your son is very lucky to have you. No, I am very lucky to have my son and the opportunity to be able to relearn the world and see it from his eyes and not my own eyes.
I mean, it's in awe, and I hope every parent hears your words, because seriously, it's just I love it. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And honestly, I just must say, I feel I've been very selfish because I don't have children yet. And I waited a long time. When I was little, I always knew I was having children later on in life because I wanted to have a career. So in a certain respect, all of my businesses have been my babies. I've been birthing all these ideas. I've been birthing all these babies. And now I've had all these experiences. And now I'm at the time where I'm going to, it's going to be the time as a woman to be able to, have that beautiful experience, and everything happens how it's supposed to. And like I said, I knew I was having children later on, but this just makes me want to get going. Cause to have that neurological connection and to build the empathy and the kinship and the patterns of the bonds and to have that responsibility, it's such an honor and to be evolved. But I think for me, I saw when I was young, a lot of people who were younger, who were having children, they were doing what you said, putting that old stuff onto their children. And I didn't want to do that. So I wanted to wait till later. So I fully had my cup full. So I fully knew myself inside and out. So I wouldn't put that onto another child, right? To break generational trauma, some say.
Right.
But yeah, it's really endearing, and it makes you just want to like jump in there. So
You will, in due time, you will.
Yes, God willing, when it's meant to be. Yeah.
Yes.
So this kind of shifts me into, it can be, all the things we've been talking about, anything, an art book, an entrepreneurial book, a spiritual book, any like a book or two that you learned along the way that you would suggest to the viewer, the listener, to say, hey, this really supported me along the way. Maybe you read it more than once. That's fine too.
Sure. The one book that comes to mind right away, because he's someone that I have always identified with, and I don't know why. Maybe because he has that old soul, yet he is so connected to the world. Is Robin Sharma and his 5 a.m. Club. Okay.
Okay.
And Robin and I had an opportunity to have. I had him on the podcast, and we built somewhat of a relationship. And had some personal moments where we were able to talk about some of our personal challenges in life as human beings, right? But I always wanted to learn. I've always studied other people that wanted to change who they are in order to become better, right? And I have always been interested in what is it that successful people do in order to be that 1%, right? In order to have that magical life that we all aspire for. And his book, The 5 a.m. Club, was probably one of my biggest my biggest teacher. And I've read that book a couple of times. He talks about the daily practices people do in order to develop to perform at peak performance. So that's one of my favorite book. Tribe of Titans by Tim Ferriss. It's a collection of many stories of very successful people. So I like to read that kind of stuff. As you and I talked before the podcast, I am deep in my feet in the personal development space. And I was introduced to Mind Valley in 2010, I think it was. When I was going through a lot of personal changes. I was single father, raising a son of my own. I just gone through a very contentious divorce. My mother had passed away. My father had passed away. And at first I was beginning to look at things as there were losses. And really what I didn't realize was that I was pruning. I was going through a part of my life where I was shedding the things that God or the universe or nature were ready to take away from me to give me an opportunity to become my own, to become whole, to become complete. So I went on a deep and profound search and on a quest for who am I, and what is my purpose. At a very young age, I had an opportunity to become very successful. By the age of 24, I built a huge real estate business, and I was a multimillionaire at that time. But I would build things up, and I would sabotage them. I would sabotage the relationships. I would sabotage the businesses, the friendships, the partnerships, everything, because I didn't feel whole and complete. And the reality is that the reason I didn't feel whole and complete was because I was bringing to the boardroom, to the marriage, to the relationships, to the partnerships, to the businesses, that broken little boy that crossed the border when he was 10 years old. Okay, I had held on to him, and I wanted him to be part of everything, and I had not learned to let that go. And it was my introduction to personal development, to Vishnu Lekiani, and me Googling on the internet, how do I become a better person, that I was introduced to that space of personal development. Although I had been to one of Tony Robbins's events many, many years ago, it didn't click at the time. Mm-hmm. It was not relatable, okay? Because I was not ready. The student was not ready, okay? I was ready in 2010 or 2009, whenever it was. And the messages started pouring in. Mm-hmm. I learned about Michael Beckwith. I learned about Lisa Nichols. I learned about Jim Quick. I learned about Vishnu Lekiani. And I learned about a lot of the spiritual leaders, personal development gurus, people like John Ansara, people like John DeMartini, and many of those incredible thought leaders that have paved the way for a lot of people to be transformed their lives. And I knew that I needed to anchor my vision into them, to follow what they were doing in order for me to change and transform. And here I am today. Today I am happy that I made that choice, because that opportunity allowed me to become a better father, a better member of my community, a member with a purpose and a mission, a better entrepreneur, a better businessman, a better leader, a better brother, a better friend, a better member of my community. Everything that I always wanted to be, I am it now. I am it today. I don't feel apart from, I feel part of. Mm-hmm. I'm not the guy that had the imposter syndrome, that I had to drink, take many shots of alcohol in order for me to feel like I was empowered and I fit in. No, today I can do it just by showing up and being present and being available and being transparent and being genuine.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I totally identify with what you're saying on different levels and circumstances. But I, as an artist, I would build myself up and then rip myself down and build myself up and rip myself down. And one of my shamans, Shaman Harry Paul, like he would tell me, he's like, you are so powerful. You could just build it up, or you could just like burn the place down. But I would do it. And I didn't know, I didn't know I was doing it. And then I would be on a track, and then I would be like at the 99%. And then I would like abandon it, drop, and just run in the opposite direction. And I did this for so many years. I was just like going so wild in a labyrinth. I was like making myself confused, just to like, I was playing my own psychological mind games with myself. And then I started noticing the patterns, because I was so unaware I was doing it. But then I started being aware of the patterns that I was doing it, and then being able to, catch it more and more, catch it and nip it in the butt, to not self-sabotage, to build something up, to stay committed, to be consistent, to go all the way through, instead of getting to that point and then abandoning it and being self-destructive and letting it go. So I know what you mean. And then Vision, he has the 6-phase meditation. Do you do his 6 phase?
Absolutely. I do it almost every other day, because I like to alternate the meditations. Mm-hmm. And the 6 phase is a visualization meditation that you are able to meditate and at the same time visualize your goals. Everything from gratitude to making amends to people you might have had controversy with, to visualize your 3-year plan, your daily plan, everything. I do it frequently. As a matter of fact, that I am a firm believer, Katie, that I have what you call the 5 pillars: physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, and financial. And I believe that if you tend to those every single day, if you maintain it, okay, you transition from operating from a state of survival into a state of flow. You no longer time travel. You don't think about the past or the future. You become present and in the now. And when you are present in the now, you are able to see with clarity who you are, and what you want to become. Okay, and you can only do that by tending to those 5 pillars on a daily basis. Not every other day, not whenever you feel like it, not whenever is convenient for you, but every single day. It is a muscle that you work on every single day. It's like going to the bank and making a deposit. So for those rainy days when you don't feel like doing it, you have enough money in the bank in order for you to be able to coast and be able to see things life from a different perspective. So what happens today is I don't have to worry about my demons, my insecurities, my fears. I'm able, because I am constantly working on myself, I'm able to predict when a negative thought is coming. I'm able to feel when I am sabotaging myself. I'm able to see why maybe I'm working on a project, Katie, for example, and I want to back away from it. I'm 99%. And now I said, no, I'm going to drop it. No, I'm 3 feet from goal. Why do I want to drop it? Why do I don't want to drop it. I want to drop it not because I'm afraid to be more successful than where I'm at. I'm afraid of the change. I'm afraid of the uncertainty. I'm afraid of what's coming. So I am, as long as I operate from a state of single consciousness, not subconscious conscious, but single consciousness, when I'm completely present, I can make decisions that prevent me from sabotaging myself. And it's taken a lot of work. It's taken a lot of years, but it's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Yeah. I took a class at Agape. Have you been to Agape, Michael Beckwith's?
I have not been to Agape. I met Michael at Mind Valley, as you know, in fact, in San Diego, and we actually in talks to have him on the podcast. But I have not been to Agape. I'd love to.
He has a university program, and his book, Spiritual Liberation. I did that. I wanted to do the one on communication, but I ended up doing the spiritual liberation first. But, you know, for the listener and the viewer, definitely check out mindvalley.com, and definitely check out Michael Beckwith. He has the Agape Center if you're in Los Angeles. So it's a beautiful community there. Really cool. So you were mentioning the 5 pillars and having everything like the coin tokens in the bank to be able to coast. So on the days as like you're doing, but you need to just have, like, say you're taking a holiday for 2 weeks, obviously, you know, working, you know, on social media or from your mobile is so remote and fluent these days, which is awesome. But do you sector like, okay, I'm going to maybe, even on my days off, I'm going to just maybe do 1 to 2 hours of light, like sweeping of what you maybe that you need and want to do? And how do you, or even if a day, if you want to just like maybe just stay in bed and just like binge watch on marathons or something like that, just to soak up the personal soul entertainment to be inspired as research and education? Does that all kind of go into the 5 pillars, or how do you rest and repair with that and to be able to thrive on your...
I'm a human being, Katie, and I want to enjoy life. I don't want to be robotic, right? I don't want to deprive myself. I truly believe that somebody that says things are non-negotiable, that's bullshit. Excuse my friends. That's baloney. That, you know, we have to be self-care. Okay, it's not selfish. So for me to want to binge watch Netflix every once in a while, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. However, what I may not do in that day, I may not get up at 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. I may slip in, and I may not do my rituals consistently throughout, you know, like my regular routine. But in between, throughout my day, I may do, you know, at some point I'm going to do my journaling. At some point I'm going to do my reading. At some point I'm going to do my meditation. At some point I'm going to do my journaling. At some point I'm going to write my goals. Now, I still do them, Katie. Why do I do them? Because I have learned that my rituals, okay, they're sacred. You know, they're everything to me. They give me the quality of life that I was looking for all of my life and did not know how to achieve or obtain. They give me that rush of dopamine that I was looking for on another woman, on a new car, on alcohol, on whatever, okay? If I'm able to get a rush of dopamine, a rush of a high, a natural high in life and enjoy, why am I going to give up something that I've been chasing all of my life for, right? I get them naturally. They're good for me. I may not be as rigid to say, okay, today I got to get up at 5 because I want to. No, I may pause my series of Netflix that I'm doing, and I may meditate for 20 minutes, and then I get back to it. And I may watch another 2-3 series, and then I journal. And I may, you know, I easy up on myself, but I do not do them. I don't zero myself out. I don't do that. Okay. The only thing that I may not do, and that for me is a little difficult, is when I travel, and I travel a lot. I commute frequently between my home here in Houston. I used to have a place in LA, my place in LA, and my place in Mexico City. So a lot of times when I travel, I may not do my workout. Okay. But the minute that I get back and I have a regular routine, I do my workouts on a regular basis.
But
Okay.
you can journal while you're traveling and you're
Exactly.
working out your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, like for example, if I'm on a plane and I'm going to be on a plane for 3, 4 hours, you know, to my destination, I'm going to journal. I'm going to read. I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm going to do my gratitude list. I'm going to do my prayers. I'm going to do everything. Okay.
You can answer those 30 emails while in flight.
Exactly. I'm going to
Yeah.
do all of that. I am very conscious of my time. I am very conscious of my intake. I am very conscious of creating boundaries that are around things that are not good for me. Okay. I do not go back to everything I ran away from. I don't. I don't. You know, I'm not curious of what happened to my childhood neighborhood when I was 40, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. I don't care. I
Yeah.
don't care.
We have to let that go. Like I was saying, Shaman Harry Paul, he's like, we live in this world vertical. It's the source energy up and
Yes.
down. And when we're doing horizontal, jagged, oh, this car accident from 10 years ago, oh, my childhood, you're bringing this stale energy like the ocean chopping into your new abundance of flow that's straight up and down. And we're human, so we all do it. But being conscious to not do it and being conscious of our environment, of who we're around, if they're doing it, and stop. Like Shaman Durek, another person, he'll call people out like Shaman Durek, like, okay, honey, if you're going to tell me something for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but if you're going to be at this whole lunch for 40 minutes talking about blah, like I got to go. Like you said, you're conscious of your time. Like it's not okay to just be blahing on other people. That's why you have the journaling and like psychotherapy and listening to podcasts to be able to journal and sort it out and have a trusted space of who you can, and trusted sources of key people we can actually talk to get it out. Cause it's important to where energy flow, attention goes where energy flows. So get that energy out. So it's not stagnant inside of our body, but having a release through communication, swimming, working out, journaling. Now, when you journal, is it just free flow journaling?
It's free flow, whatever comes to mind. You know, there's not a format. You know, a lot of times I start with, I don't know what I'm going to journal today. And then the inspiration flows. So the reality is that what I found for me, I've been in recovery for 21 years. Okay. I've been sober for 21 years. I battled with alcohol for a long time. And when I surrender, and people confuse surrender by giving up. No, surrender is giving in to yourself and saying, I have an opportunity to be better. Who am I? Allow myself to discover myself. And that's what I did when I gave up addiction, my addiction to alcohol. But the point is that I forgot the point that I was trying to make.
Journaling, free
yes.
flow.
Yeah, it's free flow journaling, and very early on in my journaling, it was almost like a therapy class for me. Okay, I was able to address a lot of the things that I had in my mind swirling around. A lot of those thoughts that were chasing me, haunting me, bothering me. I noticed that 99% of the people, they're talking to themselves. They don't have a clear mind to enjoy what's out there available. They're time traveling. And how insane is that? And I know it's insane because I did it for a very long time. I was trying to solve all of my problems in my head that had problems that had not even happened, that didn't even exist. I was creating them. Okay. When I let go of all of that, I had the energy, I had the vision, I had the presence, and I had the opportunity to tend to myself. When I tend to myself, I'm not operating from a position of defense. I'm operating from a position of offense. I know what's coming at me. I know how to deal with it. Okay. I don't have to be whispering to myself a million different thoughts. I don't need to. Early on, I started journaling. I answered a lot of the questions. I wrote countless of amends letters to people of things that I had done or they had done to me. but I needed to let go. I wanted that energy to flow. I want my body to be a vessel of positive energy, not a stagnation, not a toxic pond. I want to be positive. I want to be able to radiate when people see me. I want people to be happy to be around me. And I know for a long time, I was toxic. I was toxic. Okay. Nobody wanted to be around me. I didn't want to be around me. Okay. I kept running away from me. And today,
I've done that too. It's called, in my acting class, Susan Batson, she's Nicole Kidman's personal acting coach for over 20 years. Oprah, Juliette Binoche, Madonna, Susan Batson. She's great. She has a book called Truth. It's so good. It's just Truth, Truth. But she was saying intimacy, intimacy. I was so scared to look inside myself. How could I be with someone else and trust another person when I didn't even know if I could fully trust myself? So that's when the work starts inside. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I want to pivot and deep dive into what's next for you. I know you're doing something in your Latin community. Can you share a bit about your exciting new projects you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. October 13, 14, and 15, I have partnered up with Tim Story. And Tim Story is a celebrity in his own mind. He just released his book, The Miracle Mentality. He's Oprah's personal life coach. He's coached people like Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Chin, and many other incredible personalities, Kanye West, and the list goes on and on. Tim and I had partnered up together to put together a live, remote and live in-person event from Las Vegas, from the Warrior Studios, which is a new facility. There's a 360-degree floor-to-ceiling LED panel screen that can simultaneously translate into multiple languages, and you can have a person-to-person communication on a live remote where you're both are interacting. And we're doing an event called Excelente. Is a first leadership and personal development global summit for the Latin community. As I mentioned to you before we got started, in the last 12 years, I have dove in deeply into the personal development space. I have been to many events, and I have yet to see somebody that looks like me, speaks like me, talks like me, or comes from my culture. Okay?
No, me either, yo. You are bad. You're like a boss. You have like this swag. You're so cool. I'm like, oh yeah, who is this person? I love it. And I love what you're talking about. And actually, I'm with the union, the Screen Actors Guild, and there's a huge Latin community. And I would love to, as an artist, as an advocate, a supporter of you and your mission of what you're doing, I would love to bridge a connection and even be, the connection to the liaison to get this packet over to SAG-AFTRA. And so we can share this as a virtual event, so we can promote it. So then the Latin community of artists who are who are the movies and TV, who are musicians, they can be a part of what you have created.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're doing something very similar to what Grant Cardone has done with his 10X program. When Grant Cardone puts together a 10X conference, he has people like Mayweather, John Travolta, and many of the great artists, right? We're bringing together Canelo, which is the world's highest paid boxer, Latin boxer, Jay Boplin, who is a Colombian rapper, who is very Eva Longoria, who has been in many Latin and has done an incredible crossover into Hollywood. We're bringing together George Lopez, Fluffy, who is a comedian, Oscar de la Hoya, former boxer, King Ryan, Chiquis, and many other celebrities, in order to create a movement, literally a movement, to introduce the personal development and emotional intelligence opportunities into the Latin community. What you and I have learned in Mind Valley is not available in our communities. There's no Latin person development speakers, okay? And if they are, they're not mainstream. We don't know about them, okay? I want to be able to capture the little Peter at 6 years old when he's going through those traumas. Instead of him seeing somebody that he doesn't understand or relate to, if he sees somebody with the same color skin, with the same accent, with the
Yeah.
same background, that has been able to overcome the challenges that he was faced with, and went from being a victim to a victor, okay, and now is a champion of causes, that kid is going to be able to change and transform his life. And
Yeah.
I want to be able to bring an opportunity for future generations to come.
Love that.
Introducing that into that space.
Yeah, we should also check out the Latin community in Michigan where I grew up, because I'm friends with a lot of judges and people in Michigan and people who want to do events. So maybe I could be a local speaker and an advocate for the
Love
Latin
it.
community in Michigan for you, like a liaison.
Love it.
I love
it.
that. I love it. I love it because I come from Greek culture, so it's like this. It's the same thing. It's culture. And short story, I love Eva Longoria. She has evasheroes.org. And
Absolutely.
I play poker, and she's really good friends with Phil Hellmuth, and he's amazing. And so she flew me into Texas. I don't know if she's still living there, but she flew me in to be a part of her Eva's Heroes event for her charity.
Yeah, she used to live in San Antonio.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
she was married to Tony Parker, and they all we
Yeah,
spent.
they were my neighbors when I lived in San Antonio.
Yeah, I went there because of them. So, well, because of her. Yeah, that's so cool. And then I know we're wrapping up here, and I want to say, I know it's a very quick thing, but for maybe more on the financial side, for people who maybe had the business going and everything was destructive because of whatever, life takes turns, or maybe it's they always say, and this, once you make your first million and you lose it, you could just make it again so easy because you know how to do it. So that applies to 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever. So
right.
What about for the person who is in a place where they want to scale and they don't know how to scale and how to bridge connections and cultivate quality to maybe find something that's sustainable for them to build as an entrepreneur? Because you said there's 5 pillars, but where are some places they can start and actionable steps they can do for financial gain in today's world post, or I don't want to say post pandemic because we're still in it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to tend to, and one of them is that we don't have business problems. We have personal problems that we take into the business. Okay, and when your house is in order, when I dove in deep into the personal development space, when I started putting my personal files in order, I became a better businessman. I was able to have an opportunity to see opportunities that I was not able to see before, because I was operating from a state of survival instead of from a state of clarity. Okay, so the first thing that I would recommend, and as much everybody wants we live in a immediate gratification society, right? And everybody wants a quick fix. Well, there's no quick fix, but there's a lot of fixes. Okay, so if you're able to take care of yourself, first of all, okay, put your house in order. Tend to those 5 pillars: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial, by developing some very simple rituals: exercise, prayer, affirmations, meditation, journaling, gratitude lists, reading, learning, and learning. Okay? And if you're also able to, what got you here in any business, what got you into a business from $10,000 or your first sale to whatever number you are selling today, $100,000 or $10,000, whatever it is, it's not going to get you to $1 million. You have to look at what you need to do differently. That means that now you need to start looking at different people to help you scale your business. Okay? You don't only look at yourself, but you look at the people that surround you. Okay? If you are trying to scale a business from $100,000 to $1 million business, you need to start associating yourself with people that are running $1 million businesses. You cannot be associated with people that are running $100,000 businesses. Okay? So you need, what social media has done is given us an opportunity to have access to people that we have never had an opportunity to have access to. Okay? There used to be 2-3 degrees of separation. Today, I firmly believe that we walk shoulder to shoulder to one another. There is no 3 degrees of separation anymore. Okay. You can have access to any major influencer. If you can go to Clubhouse and literally, I've been in Clubhouse. Okay. If you don't know what Clubhouse is, it's an app. It's a social media app that people have different chat rooms, and you can go in there and learn about different topics. Anything about how to, enhance your image in social media, to how to scale your business, to whatever. But you are able to learn from experts. So if you can go to Clubhouse and be in chat room with people that are running $1 million companies, that are going to be able to give you advice, that are going to be able to help you scale your business. We are the total sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. Who is your 5? Who is your 5? Who is that 5 group of people? Is somebody, if in your 5 people, if you want to scale your business, if in your 5 people, those people are not doing things that if you're the smartest guy out of those 5, you're in the wrong 5 group.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
You really are.
I saw that you had the JT Fox on your podcast too.
I had JT on my podcast, and JT is very controversial, but I love the guy.
Yeah,
okay?
me too. Me too. Yeah.
I love the guy. And I had Glenn Lundy, and I had a lot of the people from Clubhouse on my podcast. Why? Because at the time, that's what was trending. Between December of 2020 and up to about April, May, Clubhouse was it. If you were in there, there was a lot to be.
I was in there. On World Poetry Day. I had a 12-hour event on World Poetry Day when I released my poetry book.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity to host stages. I brought in Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix. I brought in Dr. John DeMartini. I hosted a room with John Assaraf. I hosted a room with Stephen Kotler, the expert on flow. So the reality is that you don't have to have your 5 people. Your inner circle can be a cyber inner circle. Okay. If you don't have access to them, study them. Go listen to their podcasts. Go buy their books. Go follow them on social media. Stop following stupid rappers, stupid people that don't bring no value to you or to your life. Curate your life in every aspect, from who you follow in social media, from the music you listen to, from the people you chose to be around, from everything that you take. Whatever you take in, you are taking in their energy. Do you want good energy or bad energy? If their energy frequency is low, I don't want it. If their energy frequency is high and better than mine, I want it. I want to soak on it. I want to bathe on it. I want to swim in it. Just that simple.
Sunbathe in it on the Aegean Sea.
Yes.
And so and then to encapsulate what you're saying, the beginning, you were saying like clean up your house. So you weren't, for the people who are like, I don't have a house. Well, not your physical house, your spiritual house, your temple, like clean that up. And then also at the end of what you were saying, through what you were saying, is like check the ego of the mind, because the mind is a tool and it's an illusion. So like, we're not Google, we're not Apple, we're not these big brands, but you can curate, like you said, and cultivate with the 5, and to curate from within and have a boutique quality entrepreneurial standpoint, and and be connecting with people that way, and having little quality hubs, instead of thinking you need this like massive thing like Diddy did back in the day. Those are like we're not in the 90s anymore. You know what I mean?
It's not. It's slow and easy and consistency.
Yeah. I know you got to wrap, so I don't know if you want to end it here and we'll have you back on in the near future, or if you want to get one more in. It's up to you.
Well, I'm ready to end, only because I have a 4 o'clock I need to jump on to.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it, Katie. Thank you for the opportunity. I love your energy. I love to connect with you some more.
Yeah, 11-11. What? So and we'll definitely keep it going. I would love to raise the vibration.
Absolutely.
Do you do Kundalini yoga?
I don't.
You'll love it. Kundalini is all about raising the energy. Kundalini is my favorite. I'll send you some stuff on it, but I don't know. This is kind of a big question, but maybe you can get to the a point of it, because I know you have a lot of female bosses on your podcast, and in the world of everything we were speaking about, and a lot of females are on my show. And me personally, I've gone through this as well, being in entertainment, traveling the world for over 2 decades. And and how to connect with certain individuals that are, of the opposite sex, or even, females have these issues, gay boys have these issues, men have these issues with females who are more powerful, where there's that line of when they're abusing power, and knowing ethics, morals, and values and boundaries to say this person just wants to like sexually get with me for some reward, or some people are manipulating and using other people and not being authentic. And you've seen that along the way. I know you've been going at it for over 25 years. So you definitely have a decade on me. So like how can you kind of cut through that, being a father and experiencing that for almost 3 decades now? Advice to women, and maybe, gay boys out there, or it happening to men as well, of how to delegate some tips and tools of how to navigate around those things, so people aren't selling their soul for, they're not selling their dream for a promise, and then they're feeling undervalued, and then they're feeling like they're not getting what they thought they were going to get, when a lot of times it was all in their head, but they were only manipulating themselves, really.
Absolutely. That's an incredible question. It's there's a lengthy answer to that, but the short answer to that is, I think that we every human being vibrates from 2 energies, okay? From a male and female energy, okay? And I think we need to learn how to be sensitive to both energies. It's taken me a lot of work in order for me to be able to establish an incredible relationship with women. Okay, I used to have a hard time having a relationship with women, because I used to believe that, sex was love and love was sex. That was it. That was it. It was I had a dysfunctional relationship with my father. It was only until I had my house in order, until I became authentic with myself. Every problem stems from us, period. End of story. When we are fully balanced, we know how to charter the waters of whatever ocean we're swimming in. End of story. If you are balanced with yourself, you know how to walk away from a situation that does not serve you. If you are balanced with yourself, you're able to create boundaries with people that are respecting you or not giving you the value you deserve. If you have boundaries with yourself, if you know who you are able to give the best version to yourself and receive the best version to yourself. And the reality is this, Katie, we attract who we are and what we are. Okay, not what we pretend to be. Okay, so the minute that you become authentic, the quality of your relationships are going to be better. The minute that you love yourself, people are going to learn to love you. The minute that you respect yourself, people are going to respect you. The minute that you bring value to the world will bring value to you.
Yes. Oh my God, I have chills all over. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Peter O. Estévez, please check out Coming Clean podcast. Be on the lookout for his new book. Listen to all his episodes. And I definitely know you'll really enjoy hearing his voice and tuning in more with him. Thank you so much, Peter, for being here and your moments and sharing your stories. And I would definitely love to have you back on She's All Over the Place in the near future.
Absolutely, Katie. Thank you so much. You have an incredible energy. Thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to connecting with you.
My pleasure. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to She's All Over the Place. Ciao, ciao.